author Tillery here, the Mistress of Horror, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, how about you press that subscribe button, give this video a like, and ring that bell so you know when I'm uploading new videos. Welcome back to my monthly podcast. It is late coming for sure because of my crazy schedule. And so you're going to get two monthly podcasts, April, because, this will be the March podcast coming later than it should have, because I've been writing. So what I have going on that's keeping me so punch drunk busy is multiple projects. And the first project that's taking a lot of my time up, no, it's not Astro, because that is done and is in. I have like 2 chapters left that I want to look over before I send it to my editor. But yeah, the other one is for the erotica anthology that is being run by Aphrodite Lee. I am writing my first erotica to be published, though I have written erotica on the side that hasn't been published because I planned on publishing it, but it just wasn't getting to the stage yet. But now I'm going to take the leap, so to speak. And as I mentioned before about my pen names, I have 3 pen names. D.L. Tillery, that you know. And the second one is Freya Ravenwood, which is my children through YA pen name. And then there is Lavinia Hart for my erotica work. So that's the one I'll be going under for this tale. And it's going to be, like I said, in the erotica anthology. That one's taking up some of my time because it's been the last 3-4 weeks now that we have been writing to get it done. We've done some live sprints, which are still happening over here on YouTube. So it happens on my channel sometimes. It's mostly on Aphrodite Lee's channel and one of the other writers that is in the anthology, Dahlia D. Winters, on her channel sometimes as well. So that's taking up some of my time far as, making my YouTube videos, but I am still obviously producing content. But again, it's a little different right now because I'm working. It's kind of like, think about when people are doing NaNoWriMo, and I'm really, in my project right now. So besides that story, I didn't name it because we're not releasing names of our specific stories right now while it's in the process of being accepted as its first draft. But the other project that I'm working on is releasing Fractals, which is in another anthology, a horror anthology. That's going to release later this summer. So I'll be putting a video up for that, a trailer and everything, to release it solo, so you can get some of my another short horror from me. It will also be in paperback form as well for those who like to have physical books and ebook. Then I have, of course, the Nana's Children series that I plan to release later this year. That is my hopes. I already have the cover being worked on. I have to finish the complete first draft of the first book because it is a 5-book series, but the first book is quite a ways in. So the outline's been done, so I'd only slowed the project down because of these other projects that I'm doing that are coming out first. And then I have another short horror that will be in the 3rd installment of the horror anthology, Author 2 horror anthology that is released by Regina St. Clair over at Haunted Library here on YouTube. So I'm working on that short story as well. And then, of course, so I'm going to talk a little bit in this next segment about the erotica project. Okay, so see, what happened was I started a story based off the theme, and the stories are theme based. So we have to pick the pantheon that the story is under, a subgenre besides erotica being the main, and a twist. My original story that was planned just got out the gate and was too big for me to submit for this project. I did not realize this until last week, which would have still left me in the 3rd week writing. So actually that was this week. So I decided on Monday that I'm gonna have to let this one be its own thing because it's going to end up being a series now, and it's just too big. So that one's going to be side. I will announce information about it as it gets closer to being done, and I establish my Lavinia Hart status more. But yes, so that being said, once that was decided that I was going to have to not, because it already had got to 12,000 words. The limit is 12,000 words for this project, and I was already to 12,000 words, and I was not done in the least. I did have an outline, so I knew I wasn't done because I knew how much more had to be written. So, sadly, I had to put it on the side and start another story for this project with only a week left to submit. So, yesterday I did the outline on a sprint. It took me 2 sprints because I hosted the sprint for the erotic anthology last night. So, at 7 o'clock, I started writing and I did the whole outline in 2 sprints of 25 and 20. So in about 45 minutes, I did my whole outline for Act 1, 2, and 3, and then I started writing the first draft. So by the time I wrote for about 2 hours, I think I already was obviously in about an hour before I started the first draft. Rough start, but I did manage to get 500 words for the first draft, which is a nice start. I did manage to do the first 2 scenes for Act 1, and I still have 4 scenes for Act 1 to complete, which I will be working on after I'm done recording this. Of course, you probably won't get this podcast until Sunday or something like that. But that being said, it's interesting, and I picked a different Pantheon, but it looks like I have 2 Pantheons. That happened. And of course, my subgenre is always going to be horror, if I'm not writing direct horror. And then I have a twist. So, that is, yeah. I think it is interesting. It's making me write more. I really like doing these anthologies. They really get the fire under me. So that's what I'm working on. That's what I've been doing. It's taking a lot of my time. As you all know, I have a very busy life. So fitting in my writing time to this degree is not the easiest thing. But it's my future career as my main career. Though I have enough careers, to be honest with you. But it's the one I'm in love with the most. So I take it very seriously. And I don't have to do anything. But that's where I'm at so far, and we're into April now. So to move on to the next part of this podcast, where I wanted to talk about my journey with Astro. Astro is my baby book because it's like my baby, my first full novel, and it's been a long time coming. It still has some work that needs to be done on it. And it's not a big novel. I don't do really big novels. I do series and I do normal size novels. You know, they always say 50,000 words is a novel. It's not a big book, but it's still a novel. But I think short books do well, in my opinion. So me writing this dark fantasy that Astro is, and it's going to be a small book nonetheless for the first book, but it's a 3-part series, so I don't think that that's a big deal. But I think I'm ready to let it go ahead over to this editor in about a month or so. Of course, we all have to factor in budgets and costs and things like that when you're paying for your own stuff. So that plays a factor as well as to why I don't have it over to the editor, because it has to be scheduled. But I am this weekend going to finish the final 2 chapters with my final, like, light edits. It's not, I mean, the book's been edited quite a few times. But just to double check for me, after I finish the last 2 edits, I have to do a read through again to make sure I didn't forget any key points that I forgot to delete or something like that. So I would say my editor is probably going to get it at the end of the month. I'm definitely going to give it over to him this month. I probably won't get it back from him until May, because I'll pay him his last payment in May. So that's probably what's going to happen with Astro. I'm planning to release Astro closer to Halloween, That's the plan. But I do have to have a 3-month window for advertising purposes to make sure that everyone knows it's coming, that it gives me pre-orders as possible, and that everything is kosher as possible with the advertising. I don't want to botch my advertising with my first full novel launch. So everything's ready to go for Astro as far as like my marketing plan. The book cover has been done. There is another thing that I had done for the book that I'm not going to talk about yet, because even though it's um even though it is released, I didn't want to talk about it yet until I have the first trailer out. So when I release the book trailer, which I plan to release the book trailer probably June, so that's July, August, September. So I'm probably going to release the book trailer in June. So we get excited about that. Then I can release the other thing that I have worked on for Astro. I'm really excited about releasing that. But I'm working on the trailer as we speak. So I don't want it to be good. I don't want to have to do the trailer. I know trailers are like, oh, they're really short and blah, blah, blah. But it matters to me. I'm taking it, again, serious. As much as people try to say something about self-published authors as half doing something just because they're self-published, that's offensive to the people who put a lot in. So don't act as if it's a norm or everyone does that for self-publishers. We take our work serious. There's always going to be people that don't, but that doesn't mean all of us do not. Anyway. But yeah, that's where Astro is. Okay, and moving on to the next segment in this podcast. The story I'm working on for the Horror Tube Anthology by Regina St. Clair over at Haunted Library. The story I'm working on is within Astro's mythos. So the theme, I believe it's been released because she does have the call for horror writers up on her website. It is monsters and gore. So very easily placed. I already outlined the story. It is a obvious short story, and it will be released in an anthology. It was supposed to come out this October, so you'll get more insight into another part of Astro's world around the time that Astro first comes out. If you have been on my channel and you have followed me for a while, or you've seen my book, or you've read The Room Within by chance, that's one of my short horror stories. It has a paperback version out as well. It was also released in the first anthology by Regina St. Clair, Local Haunts. The story was based off of a local haunt in my area, which a house. There's quite a few haunted places in my state, and I ran with it. And the female villain in the story is actually from Astro's world. Okay, so a lot of my stuff is based in my universe, in Astro's universe, I should say. So you got to be introduced to one of the first characters in Astro through The Room Within. Fractals that comes out is not necessarily based in Astro's world, shockingly, but this story that's going to be coming out in this next anthology is based in Astro's world. So, yes. Also, the project that I wanted to talk about next is the Nana's Children that I've mentioned loosely here and there. It is a project that I started. It was based off a short story collection that I was going to do called The Shadowed Keep. And I decided not to go with that because I was contacted, which I made a video about that. I was contacted by a publishing house that was interested in my work and wanted me to submit something. But I guess it wasn't what they liked or what they were looking for. I still say that they possibly contacted me specifically because, yes, I write horror, but also a person of another race besides the people that they have working at their company as writers. So I think that's possibly like maybe why they contacted me. What I put out to them was probably too gory or violent, which is hilarious to me because it's horror. So if you were not looking for any gore or you were not looking for any violence, but you wanted horror, whatever type of horror, then you were coming to the wrong chick. That being said, it was a werewolf-based story because the first book in the Nana children's series is werewolf-based because werewolves are in Cagliostro's world big time. So, yeah, that first book is the one that's going to be released in the series. Like I said, there's 5 books. That was kind of just a fun little part of my journey where they contacted me and then I submitted, did the whole query letter thing, blah, 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 though I had an inside connection, stuff like that. But they still asked me if I wanted to submit anything else, and I was like, that's not going to happen because I have no interest in being traditionally published. I only did it just because I could say that I tried it out. And that was the only reason. I didn't even know if I was going to say yes to them. The fact that the process began was just interesting to me. But I had no plans to accept the contract for sure. I wanted to see it, and then I would decide then if that got to that stage. It did not, so it's neither here nor there. But thank you for them contacting me because Nana's Children, the full layout was born. Even though it already existed, Nana herself existed, who's actually the main character of this series. But each individual book has a different main character, I should say. I'm air quoting. But I really like this series. I really like this series, and is in Cagliostro's world. You actually get an introduction to Nana in Cagliostro. They kind of cross each other's paths, and I really can't wait for you to meet Nana. Good thing you're not meeting her in person. Meeting her in the books and the stories that come from Nana's Children's series. I'm really looking forward to that. So that is another project that I'm working on. I don't know. I plan to have the first book released at the end of the year. That's the plan. But again, I take my marketing very serious. So money is always a thing because I have a lot of responsibility. So I'll have to see if I can work in to release that one so soon after Cagliostro. But we'll see. I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm not saying for sure. But if not, at the worst, it'll come out early 23. So that's what I've been working on. All those projects that I have going, and then I have other side things that I've always had on the back burner. So I have plenty of stories to work with, plenty of things to write and contemplate. So yeah, that is my author podcast for March, and I'll have April's coming up soon. April's is going to be released near the very end of April, so that we can give time for this one to be seen. But I'm enjoying my time writing, and I have some really cool things coming, so I'm really excited about it. So in the comments, let me know what you all are working on, what you all worked on for March. I know a lot of people are ready to start for NaNoWriMo camp. I'll probably be sprinting with people, but I don't do nano really. But I like sprinting because sprinting gets the fire into me, so to speak. But yeah, that's it for me for this podcast. And I will see you all on the next one. Stay scared.